All right, what is up, Ramblin Raiders listeners? Welcome back to the podcast for the Ramblin Recap of Tarleton State. Texas Tech gets it done at home. They beat Tarleton State 41-3. Joining me as always, I have the hot take specialist himself, Laney's Locks. What's up, brother?
What's up? We're on the board. We got a dub. How about it?
Hey, man, it feels good to be on the right side of the column for once this year. Real quick, guys, before we get started, I want to plug our socials. On Twitter, we're at Ramblin Raiders. On TikTok, which we're getting more active on, at Ramblin Raiders. The Facebook page is Ramblin Raiders Podcast, and then our Instagram is at Ramblin Raiders. So trying to make it as easy as possible for y'all to go follow us on social media, rate, review, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and then also make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, which is Ramblin Raiders Media. Go drop a sub there. You can watch our episodes on our YouTube channel or listen on the podcast platforms. Another quick plug, man. Lane, you notice anything different about the studio tonight?
New shirt, new hat, huh?
That's it,
Finally
baby.
got 'em
Let's
in.
go, man. We got them in. These hats are primo. You can see for yourself right there. Shameless plug. This is an all white with the white rope, kind of the trucker style in the back. I wore it this weekend when I was in Austin proudly and, got some funny looks for doing so, but I do it time and time again. Also, the shirts, man, our T-shirts are great. Our polos are slick as well. So go to ramblinraiders.com and comp you some merch so that you can just continue to listen and be a part of, join the Ramblin Raiders family. All right, Lane, main content. Before we get into kind of the meat and potatoes here with Texas Tech, the elephant in the room, which is there a quarterback controversy in Lubbock, Texas right now? I want to start off, man. You and me were kind of, spitballing about this pre-pod, but the Big 12 is wide open right now. And you know what? I'm gonna backtrack even from there. What is going on with college football? I feel like this season has been drunk. I have not seen this much parity in the game. I mean, I can't remember the last time where I'm looking at the updates on my phone on a Saturday and Bama is down at halftime to a nobody. Sorry, South Florida, Southern Florida, UCF, yeah, South Florida, nobody.
USF.
USF, that's right. Even though they did beat us in a bowl game, it was fraudulent. But
I mean,
we
South
digress.
Carolina had Georgia, on the ropes at halftime,
I was about to
but
say
they came back and played well.
Georgia doesn't look great. How about Florida State, who comes out? You think this is an outside looking in, and then they beat LSU. Now they're a college football playoff contender. With Clemson being as bad as they are, there's another blue blood or new blood that's kind of been in the dirt. Goes on the road to Boston College and lays an egg. They get the dub, but barely. Looked shaky.
Yeah,
Texas
yeah.
against the mighty. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if you saw the end of that Florida State Boston College game, but Boston College is about to get the ball back, actually,
Yeah.
and a crucial penalty denies them the chance to get the ball back and be able to drive and go able to tie up that game or take the lead. So
that's another one. You have the Texas Longhorns at home against mighty Wyoming, giving them everything they wanted. That team might not be as bad as we thought they were, and we'll kind of get into that later. But you see some other teams who have been solid in the Big 12 that are just keep them away from sharp objects. Their fan base. We're about to get into that a little bit, but I mean, what can you say about that right now, Lane? Just it's crazy, man. I haven't seen college football in this state.
Welcome to NIL, the era of the NIL. I mean, it creates a lot of parity. I think that's why you saw the Nick Sabans of the world a little upset with the ruling when it finally hit the dirt. So I think NIL creates a lot of parity. There's a lot of chances for other athletes to go to maybe some of these other schools and make money instead of sitting on the bench at a P5 or something like that. So it's just a lot of parity right now in college football. I think it's great. I think it's going to make for a fun year. I think when we get the playoff expanded, it's going to be even better. More teams getting a shot at that. So I think it's going in a good direction.
It's truly exciting for those that I would say consider themselves like middle tier, middle of the road programs
absolutely.
like Texas Tech or, Kansas States of the world, the Colorados, I don't know, kind of drawing a blank, Missouri's, these kind of middle of the road G5 P5s. I mean, it gives everybody, it's kind of leveled the playing field a little bit. And so it's all that to be said, the Big 12 right now is wide open. And yes, that includes the mighty number 3 Texas Longhorns. Look, they're obviously leading the pack. It's theirs to lose right now. They're the front runner. But after what we saw this weekend, I mean, I'm going to rattle off some of these teams. And Lane, it blows my mind to be saying this, but before we get to UT, let's go down the line. Iowa State down
Horrible.
bad right now. They lose. Granted, I don't know why they were playing at Ohio, but whatever. You lose to a team you shouldn't be losing to.
Yeah.
You also lost Chef some money, so now you're kind of dead to me. I hate it for our Iowa State, our Cyclone brethren, the boys and girls out there in Ames, Iowa.
But yeah, they better strap in because it's going to be a long year.
Hey, it's going to get – I forgot who said it best, but that old quote, it's going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better for Iowa State.
Yeah.
I was sitting there kind of wondering, I forgot about the gambling scandal, Lane, but I was going, Matt Campbell, 2020, they win the Fiesta Bowl, first time ever. They win a New Year's Six Bowl, and then post 2020, man, they have just since that season, which I know people kind of treat like a Mickey Mouse season anyways, although, hey, I'm not going to discredit what our, like I said, our friends out in Ames were doing that year. But since then, I mean, Matt Campbell, his name's getting floated around with some of these big time kind of marquee jobs. People are really talking about his climb and his success. And then they've just been on a spiral, dude. They've been struggling ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. The gambling scandal definitely didn't help. And it could be the end of Matt Campbell, unfortunately. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be hard to recover from this year. And he's going to have to work his tail off to kind of get back to where they were in that trajectory going up.
And like you said, Lane, strap in, bring your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and mentally prepare yourself because it's going to be a while. Another fan base in the Big 12, speaking of how wide open the Big 12 is, that's down just tremendously bad. Okie State, dude. When I saw the score, I thought there was a typo or it was a joke that some parody account was posting. At home gets punked by South Alabama during Texas Tech's darkest years. A couple of those years with with Kingsbury and then the Matt Wells era. During our darkest time, we're not losing by 23 to South Alabama at home. That just isn't going to happen. And I'm talking in our darkest days. No chance in hell. Even if you lose to them, it's going to be a tight game, kind of like those close games we saw with inferior opponents. They get beat by 27 in Stillwater. And I'm a Mike Gundy fan. I think he's done a lot for the Oklahoma State program. But again, what are you going to do, man? That kind of loss, I just don't see an immediate fix for them going forward.
No, absolutely not. And Alan Bowman at quarterback really struggled. I still am baffled to how he's still in college right now, but that's a whole nother thing.
But his 401k is nice.
Yeah. I saw something already. It might be too early to be saying this, but people are already starting to get on the train of the game has just passed Mike Gundy by. He can't get it done anymore. I mean, and this is after one game, but they haven't looked good all season. I like Mike Gundy too. I think he's been a great coach for Oklahoma State for a long time. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of route they go after the season and where they finish.
Like I said to all of our Oklahoma State friends, keep them away from sharp objects because you get punked by 27 against South Alabama. That makes the Wyoming loss to me feel obsolete almost. That's down bad. Some other huge stinkers in the Big 12 right now. Houston is, Dana Holgerson's. It's the train. Let's see, the wheels are off, the car is on fire, and we are headed towards a monumental cliff. And it doesn't look like it's getting better for him. Really tough look for Houston. Couldn't even fill up their stadium in their first Big 12 opener, since they joined the conference. Kind of a pathetic showing. We got Houston buddies too. I feel for them. They're just down bad. Cincinnati losing to Miami, Ohio does not look great. Just a lot of, kind of to bring this back in, right? Reel it back in. The Big 12, you have a lot of teams that are kind of skimming by. Texas Tech's another one that's 1-2, of course. We should have beat, you play well enough to beat Oregon if you don't shoot yourself in the foot. Wyoming seems to be a better team than maybe others thought. So we're not quite as in a big of a predicament as some of these other schools. Even Baylor, who started off as bad as they did, still, they barely lose to number 12 at home. They play them close. They're not where they want to be, but they're not as bad as some of these other ones. Big 12 is wide open, and it starts at the top. Like I said, I want to throw it to, get your take on this, Lane, with UT. Look, week 2, they're riding high, coming out of Tuscaloosa with a win, and it's hard to talk as a Texas Tech fan, obviously, in the situation that we're in right now, heading into conference play. But as a college sports fan, after week 3, if I'm a Longhorn, I'm just saying, if I'm a UT fan, which couldn't be me, but for our UT family, right? That all of a sudden that number 3 ranking, I'm sweating a little bit, man, because it doesn't look as good. You underperform by all standards against Rice. You go in and again, I don't want to take away the credit. They got the dub. You go into
Yeah.
Tuscaloosa, you come
In
out, you walk away with a
Tuscaloosa,
win.
it's a big part of that. It's being
It's
in
tough.
Tuscaloosa. Yeah.
They've been, what they've been the last 10 years. That's a big win. Now, this is not the same Alabama that you've seen. We've kind of touched on that. Obviously, they beat USF 13 or 17-3. Then you're tied with Wyoming. You talked all that shit to Texas Tech fans on Twitter. It's 10-10. You got a tie ball game in the fourth quarter at home in Austin against this Wyoming team you don't cover. I'm just saying, Texas is the front runner right now, clearly, but I mean, I'm not just going to hand it over to them right now. I think they have a lot of close games ahead of them in the future. Big 12's kind of mid right now. We're sort of seeing some dog days, and I think it's a pretty even playing field, Len.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of conferences are going to get humbled, though. I think across the board, there's just so much parity. These teams getting beat. It's pretty incredible. But I mean, look at Pitt. How bad are they down? A couple of years ago, they had Kenny Pickett, and they were riding high. And now they lose to Cincinnati and West Virginia. I mean, and Cincinnati goes out and gets beat. And
did I mention them? That's another one. Cincinnati.
You mentioned them. Yeah.
You're in the college football playoff. What was that, 2 years ago? And I mean, now you can't sniff one, man. I mean, you lose to Miami, Ohio. I mean, you're 2-1, but you lose to Miami, Ohio. Crazy times ahead. If you're a Big 12 fan, buckle up. And I'll say for Texas Tech, McGuire has emphasized this. We talked about this last week. Obviously not the start you're looking for non-con, but guess what? It basically starts over next week. 0-0. You're heading into conference play, and everything that you hope to achieve at the beginning of the year, it's out in front of you. And it's this Texas Tech team. I mean, we're about to, kind of check the tape, right? With the way our defense is playing, and if we can get it going on offense, this team can get streaky and I think can be dangerous and still win a Big 12 championship, possibly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about getting on the right page on offense. If we see our offense, step up and start playing how we all expected them to this year, I think we're going to be right there. I mean, we're going to win a lot of games in the Big 12 if that happens. Now, if that doesn't happen, it could be a struggle, but we'll see.
We'll see. Kansas State's another one I wanted to throw. I mean, I know they got Garibay, right? You lose on a 61-yarder. That's got to sting, but
in a tough environment as well. Big rivalry game.
I still think K-State's got, Coach Kleiman, I have a lot of respect for him. I think he runs a really good program over there. There's still someone to watch out for. Oh, the last one I was going to mention before we move on, Oklahoma. Admittedly, I'll say this. I know they haven't played anybody well, but, or they haven't played anybody good. At the same time, they're executing and they're doing what you're supposed to do when you have kind of more of a cupcake schedule leading into your non-con. They're punking them. They're beating the shit out of every team they play. That I don't know if OU is getting the recognition yet that they deserve, but come next weekend for the Red River rivalry, be prepared, UT fans, because I think OU might be a little more dangerous than people are leading on with them right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think behind Texas, they're the number 2 pick right now, just because they've done what they're supposed to do, right? They've rolled all their non-con opponents, these easier opponents. So they've been doing what they're supposed to do, and we'll see what happens when they get up against the big boys and the big talents. So I think they're going to be right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about we've covered our bases here with just how wide open the Big 12 is. Let's talk about, actually before we do that, I want to do a quick sponsorship plug. Thank you to this Ramblin Recap sponsor, Pennant Patchworks. Use the code Ramblin if you go to their website, pennantpatchworks.com. Use the code Ramblin, all caps RAMBLIN, for a 10% discount on all of on your total purchase, that whatever that amount is that you have from their website. They make the best lids for Texas Tech in the game. I mean, I'm gonna see if maybe I can talk to Zach and get the Ramblin' Raiders hat thrown in the mix over there, because we want to be among that elite company They do a fantastic job. It's a local based company. Give them your business. You're not going to find better lid out there for Texas Tech fans. Check out Pennant Patchworks and go to their website, pennantpatchworks.com. Okay, here we go. Lane, the elephant in the room. Let's talk about it. Texas Tech gets the dub. Is there a QB controversy in Lubbock? I'm going to go ahead and throw it to you first, Lane. Lead us off because you got to watch the game. I went back and watched it this morning. I was at a wedding. Shout out Chandler and Sierra, Texas Tech couple. You know that they're a great couple and that they're built for longevity because they had DP shootouts at their wedding. Really made for a tough Sunday for me, but congrats to them. Couldn't watch the game. The weddings are over for me, so I'm going to be locked in the rest of the way, but I watched it this morning.
Yeah. I think, however, Joey and Kitley handle this, it's very delicate, obviously. They have to make the right moves going forward because it could heavily impact the team and kind of the psyche of these two guys. But in my opinion, I'm not in the coach's locker room or anything like that, but I think there's definitely a controversy to be had. Tyler Shuck did not perform well when he got his chances to throw the ball against Tarleton State. I think that was clear to see for everybody. And then Baron Morton came in and, he really only got a few opportunities, but he looked good in those opportunities. The offense looked to open up a little bit more with him. The way I see it, when just listening to Kitley talk, this might be me playing into my own narrative, I guess, a little bit. But to me, it sounds like Kitley, is excited when Morton's in there because he's more of a gunslinger. He runs more of the Kitley offense that we know. So I think there's definitely a quarterback controversy. I think Shuck's going to have a short leash, but, I think there is that bit of Joey McGuire is not giving up on his guy. He's kind of got that connection, and he wants to be right in his aspect. So we'll see, but it's delicate for sure.
I mean, he's officiating his wedding, so it might be awkward, walking down the aisle if your officiant sits you down in your starting position. But I'll say this, Lane. I saw the reaction on Sunday. I was on Twitter. I went back. I saw, Tech Twitter's reaction, social media.
Yeah, I had this before you go, but yeah, I mean, to the fans, I haven't seen one fan on Twitter or anything say that they do not want Baron Morton to start. So for the fans, obviously that means nothing because none of them are the coach, but the fans want Baron Morton.
Yeah, no, he's won the fan vote 100%. I mean, everyone was talking up Baron Morton, and so I wanted to go watch it for myself before I could gauge kind of what how I felt about sort of everybody's backlash towards Shuck and the desire to want to have Baron be our starter. And I'll start with this. Tyler Shuck had a bad game. He had his worst game. I'm not going to beat around the bush. He had his worst game of the year so far, which I know is kind of ironic because it's the one game we won. But, he's 9 for 18, I believe it was, if I'm remembering that right. He was 10 for 20 on the game, but 9 for 18 going into the half. He ended with a 16.2 QBR rating. I believe that was the second worst QBR rating in the Big 12 this weekend behind our old QB, Donovan Smith, over at Houston. I don't know why I was blanking on his name for a second. Donnie Donovan Smith, was the one guy behind him that was worse than him. And so he had a bad game. And look, I respect what the coaches and they did exactly what I expected them to do. Kitley and McGuire, they covered for their boy, right? They're taking care of him. Exactly what you would expect a coach to do by saying, oh, well, he made a lot of great reads. He handed the ball off to Taj when, it was his decision to either, I guess, RPO, pull it and throw or run. He was reading the defense right. But they kept harping on drops. They were saying, oh, and we had a lot of drops in the first half.
I'm not buying that.
I went back and analyzed every single one of them, and they're talking about 3 plays, and all 3 of them are bad passes. They're not great.
Yeah.
I mean, Miles Price, if he puts it on the numbers, Miles Price is going to catch that. Instead, he's got to dive for it. Our old man was a receiver at Texas Tech. He claims if you get a hand on it, you should catch it. But I mean,
which you should, but still, it's not a great throw.
No, it's not. It's a 50-50 at that point. I'm not going to, they're sitting there saying, oh, he had some drops. That was not on him, man. He has to dive out and make a spectacular grab. Yeah, his hands on it, but not a great throw. The one to Taj Brooks out of the backfield where he does a little wheel route. close play. I mean, he puts it on him, but again, he overthrows him by just a hair, man. It's off his fingertips, touches his hands, but it's a bang, bang. It's not he doesn't drop it, a drop a dime and right in the pocket there. It's kind of a tough one. And then the one to Mason Tharp is behind him. I mean, he just throws it. It's a shitty throw. You do it behind him, and they're like, it's just not great. So the drops narrative is not one that I'm going for. Other Texas Tech fans are going for. Ultimately, you're right. It's a delicate situation. And look, Tyler Shuck had his worst game. Part of me is wondering now, is the outside noise starting to play a part? Is he feeding into that exterior narrative? And again, all the criticism that, he's obviously hearing, right? He puts that tweet out last week talking about, step into the arena. It's the guy who's in the arena is the one that's competing and doing these spectacular things, while the average Jobin like you and me and the rest of these fans, Lane, are, couldn't do it. And he's right. I could never do what Tyler Shuck can do, right? And I think I still believe Tyler Shuck is a good quarterback, and I might get flamed for this later on in the season, but I'm going to stand there and say he's shown the capability. He can do it when he's playing his best. We saw it last year. The problem is that we have not seen his best this year. We haven't seen it yet. And I think that's where fans are getting frustrated. Let's talk about Baron Morton a little bit, Lane, because that's, you said he looked good. I'll say he looked hungrier out there. He looked loose. He was kind of vibing more. It looked like with guys, he goes 8 for 13 with 2 TDs, 1 interception on a play that was a miscommunication. Apparently he called something different. Fonji, who's sort of disappeared this year, honestly, does the wrong blocking assignment. I mean, he got his starting position taken. So I don't know what's going on with Fonji right now, but we're hoping he can get back to where he was last season in the bowl game and the performance he put together. Messed up play. Morton was like livid coming off the sidelines. He's pissed about it because he knows that everyone's breaking this stuff down. And
he knows it's a big drive. That's a big drive for him. And that's the guy who believes he's playing for the job at that point.
Exactly. But to your point, Lane, he looked loose. Clearly he gets the ball out quicker. He's the kind of guy that I think is going to take some more chances, right? That's the risk you run with Morton, is that he's going to try to slip it in there more, but he's got an arm. He's got a live one. He's quick, and he looked comfortable out there, where Shuck, to me, this was the most uncomfortable he looked. And I think, I mean, part of it to me has to be that his confidence isn't where it was to start the season because of that criticism. And I'll end it with this. You know how you go out and you put that to bed, Lane, is you go win ball games and you play the way you're capable of playing. I trust McGuire. I do. I think that truly him and Kitley, at least McGuire, to your point, Lane, I mean, you were looking into it. He looks excited for both, but the fact that they're both
what I said is probably not true, but it's just, to me, it seems like that a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, they're both standing up for their guy. Deep down, I got to believe they still believe Shuck is the dude who gives you the best chance of winning the game. And when he's playing at his best, I believe that too, man. I mean, hell, against Oregon, and I know it's like, you can play the what if game and all day long, but he's damn near, he's 2 plays away from really having a solid ass game against what is looking like one of the best teams. I mean, they're 21-point favorite against the mighty Sanders crew out there in Colorado.
The overrated Colorado Bucks.
Yeah. Tune into the Rip tomorrow for Lane and Mark, getting into it on that. I can't wait for that banter. But against a good Oregon team, he's capable. And I believe that still. And again, if I'm wrong down the road, I'll come back and eat crow. Go into Morgantown, Shuck, put the haters, and you had a chance in this game to put the critics to put them to bed, man. And he couldn't do it. He went out and he played his worst game. He's got to do it in Morgantown. And if he doesn't, my biggest fear, you go and let's say we lose by 3, he kind of has one of these, throws an interception, maybe has 2 or 3 TDs and sort of 50 to 60% middle of the road QBR rating. And we get back in the locker room and McGuire's sitting there going, hey, it's not our quarterback play, it's the rest of the team. Then I think you're really going to start having a problem, man, because we can't have that anymore. And I don't think McGuire would do that. I really don't. I think he would be able to then, I hope to God, I believe he would make the right call. But when you have a guy like Baron Morton behind you, you got to let that pressure fuel you. And he's got to go out, simple as this, put the critics to bed, do what I know you're capable of doing, and go win a damn ball game in Morgantown, man. Put them to sleep.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah,
I know I just went on like a massive soliloquy there.
No, it's one way to do it, but here's my thing on it is the offense as a whole. It's not just the play of Shuck and Morton. The offense as a whole, I think, runs better with Morton because it's more of what the offensive coordinator wants to run, right? I think that's the biggest thing that's nothing against Shuck. I just don't think he's the right fit for Kitley's offense. I think Morton fits that scheme better and fits what Kitley is trying to install at Texas Tech better than Shuck does. I'm not saying Shuck's, worse than Brandon Morton or Brandon Morton's better than Shuck. I think it's just a fit, the style of play. So I think Morton's, in my opinion, again, I'm not a coach, so my opinion is diddly
Hey,
squat.
your opinion's the only one that matters.
But in my opinion, I think Morton actually gives his team a better chance offensively because he fits the scheme better.
And that's an argument to be made, man. Again, I know we're not the coaches there, but I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to kind of watch some of these plays that Morton makes where he zips one in there. His release is so much faster. And like you said, the offense is more free. It's more loose. My biggest gripe with Morton potentially, and again, I don't know because we hadn't really given him, that big of a fair shake is maybe there's some, because of his kind of aggressive nature, right? Kitley said it in the presser. He likes to call his own play where he's going to try to make a tight throw. He wants to throw the ball more. It creates opportunity for some potential turnovers and maybe some inconsistencies. However, it also opens you up to better deep balls, getting guys open so they can get some yards after catch. That's his style, man. He's going to be able to make those throws that Shuck, going through his progressions, takes a little more time, and doesn't always deliver the way you hope to. I think Shuck runs it. I mean, they both have their intangibles. They both do things well, to Lane's point. And I think that's a fair one. I really do. That it just appears like Morton is a better fit for what Kitley tries to do.
Yeah, and another point to be made, like you were saying, Shuck's probably feeling the heat, and he didn't play well last game. And I mean, it was noticeable when Morton came in, the standing ovation from the crowd, and there was just an energy that, I mean, I wasn't even at the game. I was sitting at home watching it by myself on the couch, and I was like, I could feel the energy. It felt like to me, with like this, it was like an upbeat, an uptick in the offense, and an uptick in the play calling, and Kitley was getting more aggressive. I mean, it just felt like more energy, and I mean, that can't be good for Shuck. I mean,
no, and I'll be honest, Lane, reading body language throughout the game and kind of, looking into that. I mean, at the end of that half, Shuck airmails 2 throws to Jared Bradley. I think they were both to him. One of them might have been Miles Price. Anyways, he airmails them out of bounds, and they're both wide open. I mean, Bradley's open on both plays, and I mean, he came over to the sideline, and it showed him and Kitley was kind of asking him something, and he was responding. And I won't repeat Kitley wasn't talking to him directly, but I won't repeat what he said. But let's just say there was an F-bomb and a GD thrown in there. And I mean, Kitley looked frustrated. I don't want to put words. Yeah. I mean, literally, I'm putting words in his mouth, but I can read what he's saying. He wasn't happy. He was not in a good place. And so again, it comes down to Shuck, do what you did for us last year. You came in the back half of the season and you were a gamer. You won games. Get back to playing that level of football. Shut up your critics, and we'll be smooth sailing from there. That's what he's got to do. And if he doesn't, this coaching staff's they got to be able to pull the trigger, man. At some point, look, take Alabama for example, right? They go to their backup, they're losing, which is wild. When I saw
he cycled through all 3 of them, and then went back to the starter.
And then he went back to the starter. So at the end of the day, if you drop one, which we'll get to that later in the week, but Texas Tech's a favorite in this game. I think they are the better team on paper. I believe they should go in and win this game. This is a very winnable one. If you lose another one, then why not? Why not try something different at that point? Because you don't want your season to get away from you. Let's talk about some positives, man. End it on a high note here. Feed Brooks. We talked about it last week. We said, hey, this dude, I don't know if he's getting enough carries. He's averaging 11 on I don't know, he had 7 or 8 carries maybe. Anyways, he's averaging 11 yards.
Carries maybe.
Against Oregon, I think he had 7 or so. Anyways, he gets a lot more. I wrote it down here. 19 carries. He has a career day, 158 yards. We talked about it on the pod last week, Lane. I guess the Texas Tech coaching staff and Shuck were feeling the same thing that we were because they fed that man, and he's capable, dude. He's shifty. He's aggressive. He does not fear going downhill and finding that contact. He's a brute, man. And he's also, I think he's gotten a lot shiftier than he even was last year. I would love to see us utilize Brooks just just more. I mean, if we can, not saying more than this game. I mean, hell, he had 19 carries, a lot of yards. They utilized him correctly, but let's feed the big dog, man, if he's going to continue to produce like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think he had a great game. I will say he should get more carries. I'm not saying that he shouldn't, but that was against Tarleton State, and we're not going to be able to run the ball like that against every team, giving him, 20 carries and a half. I just don't think that's going to, you got to have some kind of disparity to be able to throw the football. But no, I mean, he still deserves double-digit carries every game. He's a great running back, and I think adding Cameron Valdez back to the active roster is also going to help Taj Brooks even more because it gives our running game a little bit more of a double-headed dynamic. So I think the running game only goes up from here.
Agreed, man. And you brought up a great point. It's always important to remember who you're playing. So obviously,
I'm just saying we're not going to be able to hand the ball off 40 times to Todd Brooks and win games in the Big 12. But yes, he definitely deserves more carries, and he's obviously productive when he gets the football. So he needs to, be fed the ball.
That is a good point to bring up. And so we had one question from Wesley Perkins. It was on the same line as this. Excuse me. Will Taj continue to get the carries he got last game? Maybe the issue isn't Shuck as much as the issue is being too one-sided and relying on Shuck too much. I actually touched on that last week in Oregon, that's a great question by Wesley there. And I do believe that we did need Shuck was the carries he had and the passing attempts he had against Oregon. Yes, I think you got to take a little bit of the pressure off of him. I mean, you want your quarterback is running the show, man. He's the ringleader, right? But getting him in situations where it's not all predicated on what he's doing is a fair point to bring up. To what Lane just said, I think to answer Wesley's question, no, he's not going to get the same number of carries. Well, shit, I don't know. Maybe if he's continuing to produce this way, but more than likely,
a recipe for success. I think you got to have both run and pass game kind of equilibrium in today's game. And Taj Brooks is obviously a great player. You can get him involved in the pass game if you want to as well. I mean, it's all about getting him the ball in space and running downhill. And so I think he's going to continue to do that. I just don't think we can hand it off to him, 40 times a game and that's gonna work. So I think you got to utilize both pass and run.
Absolutely. And when it comes to Shuck, I would say you probably want to see a little bit more of a balanced attack. That dynamic might change with Morton. Yeah, you're going to hand it off some still, but with Morton, you get passes out quicker on screens. You have some other tools in your tool belt to utilize. So it also depends on who the quarterback is to help answer that question as well, Wesley. Last but not least, Lane, before we wrap up, I know I think I gave us a hard stop at 8 with this Zoom call, so we'll try to make this last point relatively brief. Texas Tech's identity, man, is on the defensive side of the ball now, and the defense has been your bread winner really in these first 3 games. They've played your best football as far as looking at which when it comes to that side, which side of the field is producing more. It's crazy to think where we were and how far we've come from the Leach and Kingsbury days. It's kind of it's just something I like to talk about and really think on is the fact that we have a defense that can really keep this team in games. And it's like, if we can just get the offense firing to a level that it used to be back in our glory days with the air raid, this team can be really dangerous. Because from what we've seen right now, and in this game, you saw the turnovers again. Tarleton State, who admittedly was in the FCS ranks, they were the number 1 highest producing offense there, and you shut them down. They scored 3 points. Our secondary is the best I've seen them in a while, with Dunlap getting 2 interceptions, 1 a pick 6. You also have Taylor Dimerson, as I like to call him, the Rabbit, getting a big pick, just being in the right place at the right time. Great coverage. Held them to 3 points, and that's where your identity is right now, I think, on this team. Your defensive specialist, you hold Oregon without assisted offensive or coaching mistakes and mishaps. You hold them to 28 points. They put up 50-something on Hawaii, 80-something on Portland State. I mean, just kind of, I'll let you speak to that, Lane. It's weird having been lifelong Tech fans like us, seeing now all of a sudden, and I love it. I love what Joey's doing, man. He comes in there with that defensive mentality, and we got ourselves a defensive unit in the 806 right now.
Yeah, we definitely do. They've been great through 3 games. It's also frustrating as a Tech fan, though, because
Yeah.
you're sitting there going, our offense is supposed to still be good this year too, and it's like we can never get
Yeah.
both of them and put them together. So hopefully Joey can figure out how to keep this defense playing at this level, and then also bringing the offense up to back to the Texas Tech standard on offensive levels, and then we're going to be dangerous. So
Oh,
hopefully they can
buddy.
figure that out.
I mean, if you could take Pat Mahomes and that offensive unit with Kingsbury and match them with this defense, might be looking at a Final Four, college football playoff situation there. So just wanted to really harp on the job that Coach DeRuyter's doing. I think it's been incredible to see. I mean, with Matt Wells, you started to get a little bit better, not where we are now, but you saw a transition there somewhat. I'll give credit where it's due. I think Matt Wells kind of helped a little bit with that side of the ball, getting guys out of the portal, that players that are still, working for this team now. But then, Joey McGuire and Coach DeRuyter step in here. And in 2 years, you've seen this defense really transform and put together some great work. Now it's Kitley's turn and the QB position and this talented receiver room that we have and running backs to get it together and, come through and produce for us so that we can put together a complete game. When that happens, Blaine, I'll say watch out for the boys in red and black. All right, guys, with that, again, Pennant Patchworks, check them out. Go to ramblinraiders.com. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Any final words, Lance? We close it out, man. I know 0-0, clean slate, and your goals are out ahead of you. We're going to Morgantown, 5.5-point favorite. Man, it starts over here. Put the rest of it out of your mind. Those were dress rehearsals. Now we're in the show.
We're in the show, man. Let's go get a dub in Morgantown. Looking forward to the rip tomorrow night. Keep your guns up.
All right, baby. Ramble on. We love you guys. We're excited to keep this content flowing through the rest of football season. It's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, I'll be watching the West Virginia game from Perry.
That's right, man. Everybody say bon voyage to Lane over there. Him and Mrs. Locks are heading over to France for their honeymoon. We hope you guys have a safe trip, and hey, don't be afraid to really dig into that red wine scene over there, man. The vino.
And I'm going to make sure and set up my my Fubo TV to be sure I can watch the Tech game over there, because I know they're probably not going to have it.
Hey, I don't think the Ramblin Raiders Gmail has been used for Fubo yet. So if you need it, man, we'll gladly extend it to you. I'm actually going to be, y'all remember, for our longtime listeners, our boy Nick Thompson. I'm going to be at his bachelor party in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, watching with the boys as we take on West Virginia. I wanted to shout out Nick Thompson, man. He's doing great, by the way, loving life, getting married, so obviously doing something right. But the old Ramblin Raiders partner and host that we had. So shout out to Nick. All right, guns up, baby. We love y'all. We're excited. Yep. And this team, like I said, man, they got all their goals out ahead of them. Tyler Shuck, turn it around, big dog, and show us what you can do in Morgantown. We'll see y'all later.